Welcome into Loftside Bantr. You can catch all of the episodes at www.loftsidebanter.com. That's Loftside, Bantr.com. Loftsidebanter@gmail.com for the email. And then check us out on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, we're there. On today's episode, we welcome back Marina Dickey, and she brought some of the players from the Granite State Destroyers semi-professional football team who have their first home game coming up on 6/14. We get to talk to one of the captains, Tyler Shattuck. We talked to their defensive coordinator, Coach Michael Harper, and new quarterback Jayden Hann, who joined the team this year. This was the second go-around with some of the players, and it was a very good conversation with all of them and some good insight for what the expectations are for this season, with their season just about to kick off. We're going to dive into what the Red Sox need to do to get Roman Anthony, their number one prospect, up here to the big leagues. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then we'll look at the tennis world and Coco Gauff winning the French Open. Is it time for the young American to take over the sport? And we have one of those feel-good stories. We're going to talk about Jamar Smith, who went from working at Dunkin' Donuts, or just Dunkin' for most of the people nowadays, to rescuing the Birmingham Stallions and getting them into the UFL playoffs. So we'll go over that a little bit as well. Let's get it over to the countdown so we can get the episode started.
We are on in 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome into Loftside Bantr. Today's show, we have quite an interview with three of the Granite State Destroyer football players, plus fan favorite Marina Dickey is back with us today. We're going to go over some Red Sox news, NFL news, tennis, which is going to be a new one for the show, and we'll look at the UFL and a feel-good story. All of that was said during the Open, of course, but let's go ahead and get started with the Boston Red Sox. So the Boston Red Sox beat the New York Yankees last night, 10-7, which brings them 4 games under 500, which is not so great. They actually got a win with their ace, even though he didn't pitch at his best. So some positive to take out of it. Again, they've struggled this year. We all know that. We all know the shortcomings of this team that continue to arise. Alex Cora came out and said, we're making the same mistake, so that must be me to blame, right? Which doesn't seem like it's a lot of accountability coming out of it. But at the same point in time, he knows his job's safe. They just signed him to an extension. So I don't really think he feels that threatened by it. And whether that is absolutely the case or not, it doesn't really sound great in an interview that he's taking half accountability for some of this stuff. And I like Alex Cora. I have for a while. He's obviously done really well with this team. He went through the whole thing where he had to go out for a year because of the sign-stealing scandal when he was with the Houston Astros. And since that he's come back, the team has been vastly different. Whether it's management not investing, whether it's players not developing, whether it's making mistakes that, like fielding. They've been some of the worst fielding teams over the last few years. And none of that has really improved with different players. They've always said they want to improve it. We want to improve it. And it never happens. That being said, there's obviously an exciting prospect down in AAA by Roman Anthony is his name. And he's the Red Sox number one prospect, has been all season. Plays in the outfield. And last night for the Worcester Red Sox, he hit a 500-foot grand slam, which gets everybody excited. And I'm wondering what else this kid has to do to get up to the Major League roster. Like, you got to make these moves. You got to bring up the kid that's playing this well down there, is obviously ready for the MLB. And yes, you don't want to rush him, but I don't think that they have done that at all this year because there's been no movement to bring him up. You look at the active roster right now, Wilmer Abreu has been one of your better hitters, right? He has 13 home runs, 32 RBIs, batting .248. Not the greatest average in the world, but he's hitting for power this year, which is what you wanted to see. Jaren Duran, has struggled a little bit with some power, but 13 stolen bases, 35 RBIs, batting .274. I mean, he's still a good leadoff guy. You kind of have a jack-of-all-trades outfielder in Rafaela who can play a little bit of the infield and the outfield. And then you have Rob Refschneider, who I like. He's just not the guy that... And I've seen him in the middle of the lineup, 4th, 5th in the lineup when he comes in. The guy is not a power hitter, hasn't been a power hitter his entire career. He's had 1,200 at-bats, and he has 28 home runs. Bats .255 lifetime career. He's batting .292 right now. Again, we're at 65 at-bats for him this year. There's no reason why we can't have him not on this roster anymore. Why can't we move him off this roster and get Roman Anthony up here? I don't really understand it. Now, Refschneider is your 4th outfielder, but, maybe Rafaela sits a few different times. Maybe he plays in the infield a couple of positions and a couple of nights. But, there's a point in time where you're just delaying something, and I don't want it to think that it's going to upset Roman Anthony. I've never heard anything that he's upset for not being called up yet, but man, we're really just behind the 8 ball when it comes to all of this stuff with him. Trying to look at his stats for this year, I mean, he's batting .290 down there. He's got 10 home runs, 29 RBIs. So I mean, he's not. He's striking out a little much, maybe. But he also had 21 stolen bases last year, 16 the year before. He's got 3 now. They're obviously not having him run as much. But, I mean, in his career for the 5 different teams since 2002 that he's played for in the minor leagues, 42 home runs, 170 RBIs. I mean, he's walked 223 times. I mean, and his strikeouts are 55 right now this year. He's 49 walks. So, I mean, he's walking more. He's doing a whole bunch of stuff. And yet somehow he can't seem to find the ability to get up to the major leagues. And I'm hoping this isn't something they're going to try to pull for the rest of the year. But, man, what a home run or what a grand slam he hit last night. With everything accounted for, the Red Sox went 2 out of 3 against the Yankees over the weekend. Last night they won 11-7, and the night before I believe it was like 10-7. So for the first time in like back-to-back games, the offense did some stuff. The pitching was able to hold the lead for like the first time this year, and now they're only 3 games under 500. So I'm sure a parade's planned for in the center of Boston for being only 3 games under 500, but at least they put up back-to-back games against the Yankees. And then one of the other things I wanted to mention with baseball is Paul Skeens, the pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, the number 1 overall pick, came out of LSU, had a cup of coffee in the minor leagues and came right up to the big leagues and has been pitching phenomenal. He also last night pitched another gem, and his team didn't win. He remains 4-6 with a 1.88 ERA, which is second best in the National League behind, the New York Mets' Cody Senga has a 1.59, but he's pitching, I think he pitched 7 2/3 innings against the Phillies last night, get 1 earned run on 2 hits, 7 strikeouts, and his team didn't win. Now, the Pittsburgh Pirates are that organization that have been kind of in that same position for a long time and just haven't had the best talent, or at least it not all coming together all at once. So Paul Skeens is still pitching amazing. I want to give him the props because normally with a great pitcher like this, and one that's probably going to be a generational talent, barring injuries, of course, he's going to get lost on that Pittsburgh team. Luckily, with the media and fans and everybody having all these social medias and stuff, they can put out all this stuff that we may not forget about him completely, but it's already been talked about that he's going to get traded. And I'm sure teams are going to try this year. He's still on a low salary for Pittsburgh, so I don't think he's going anywhere. Pittsburgh has this nice cornerstone. Can they put together any sort of other part of the team to help him at all? We'll see. I do want to get into our read for the Massachusetts Pirates, and then we're going to get right into our interview with Marina and the Granite State Destroyers. This episode is brought to you by the Massachusetts Pirates of the Indoor Football League. Looking for a family-friendly night out that's anything but boring? Experience the high-octane action of indoor football, where every seat makes you part of the game. With tickets starting as low as $18, even front row seats are affordable. Be a part of the excitement. If a game ball lands your way, you get to keep it. How cool is that? And then after the final whistle, stick around for an autograph session with the players for just $15. Don't miss out. This is football like you've never experienced before. Come see the game in the Songus Arena in Lowell, Massachusetts. And for ticket information, go to www.masspiratesfootball.com. Again, that's masspiratesfootball.com. And welcome back into Loftside Bantr. Today we have a familiar face back on. Some of our episodes have been with her and have been very popular, so I had to bring her back in. So, Marina, I thank you very much for coming back in.
Thanks for having me yet again.
And we bring you back as part of the Destroyers again. Since you have so many hats and so many different teams that you play for, I had to make sure that everybody understands that she's here for the Granite State Destroyers, and we actually have some other guests with us as well. We have, from what I gather here, there's a person that plays a ton of different positions. Tyler Shattuck. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you? How are you doing?
Doing all right. And then we have defensive coordinator, Coach Michael Harper.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
And quarterback, Jayden Hann. How are you today?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So we have a full crew today. We're going to talk again about the Destroyers and kind of get some insight and kind of pick their brains a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go around the horn here for a whole bunch of different things. Now, I want to make sure my cameras are still up. There we go. And then, so I'm going to start with Tyler. And I'm going to start with a question for him because, now, Tyler, have you been around since day one or like very close to day one?
Yeah, so I was around before we were actually the Granite State Destroyers. I was a couple years before that, I think 3 years prior. And then once that first team folded, then we ended up making the Destroyers now that we have.
Okay, and then Coach and Jayden, Coach, how long have you been with the Destroyers?
This will be my third non-consecutive year, if I'm remembering, or fourth. I forget exactly. But I was with the team a few years back, took a little hiatus, and returned last year. It's either 3 or 4 years.
And Jayden, is this your first season?
It is, yeah, my rookie year.
Rookie year, perfect. All right, so we got a good wide range of time with the team. Tyler, now I mentioned earlier that you play multiple positions. If defensive back, wide receiver, running back, are those the three positions you play? You play more?
Yeah,
Mainly. How do you prepare? How do you prepare with so many different positions that you're playing in? Like, how do you absorb all of that as far as what your assignments are and everything else like that?
Offense is probably the most complicated, only because you have to know a lot more positions and plays, concepts, all that type of stuff. So it's a lot of studying for the offense, especially this year. We're throwing a lot around, and I think we're doing pretty well with it so far. Defense is pretty easy, pretty natural. I think.
Coach, would you agree that he seems pretty natural in that position, or?
I'll tell you something. I call Shattuck my Swiss Army knife, and not just mine, but the team's Swiss Army knife. If we need a big play, as long as it's not on the offensive or defensive line, Shattuck's probably a good guy to put in to that role. So is defense easier? To a degree, I would say. Certainly from his perspective in terms of understanding like schemes and plays, they're somewhere you're supposed to be on offense. on defense, there are generally areas you're supposed to be in. So a guy like Shattuck, who's been doing it as long as he has, it's second nature for him. He said he's, you mentioned him as a corner, a wide receiver, and a running back. I mean, the guy plays safety. The guy plays, strong safety, weak safety, free safety. He's our kick returner, punt returner. Yeah, he's a little old now, but he can do it all.
Easy with that.
Now,
I'm
Jayden,
seasoned. I'm not old.
Jayden, you went to Central High School, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, correct.
Central High School. So what is it? What do you feel? What are your feelings as far as going from Central High School to now a semi-pro team and kind of taking the reins of an offense?
It's definitely a change for sure, but there's a lot of familiar faces, whether I played football with them before, or I just know them from, seeing them around. It's nice. It feels like a family already, and I think that's what football does to people. It brings everyone together like a family.
Perfect. Now, Marina, while I have you here, I'm going down the list that I'm looking at. So some of the behind-the-scenes things that you help with the team, why don't you remind some of our listeners and stuff like that, the things that you're doing with the Destroyers and everything else like that?
Yeah, so a lot of the paperwork, the mundane stuff I do, I annoy these guys a lot with having them fill forms out for me, get them registered. This past Wednesday at practice, they were on the field and I spent an hour sorting out jerseys and pants for them and making sure everything was in. My house looks like a sports memorabilia store threw up. I have decals everywhere. I have old jerseys everywhere, trying to figure out what we have, what we don't have, things like that. And then usually if these guys have any questions regarding payments or league rules or anything like that, they come to me to ask.
So again, wearer of many hats, as mentioned before.
She's also our sideline photographer. She's also the person keeping regulations right on the sideline. She's telling guys like me who get overly excited to back up from the sideline. Marina's hats are certainly endless, for sure.
Listen, I've known her since high school, and if you keep telling her all these great things, we're going to see her head grow right in the camera frame here.
Don't worry, it'll get knocked down tomorrow at my game.
So Tyler, now where you've been around since day one, what is different now this season comparative to kind of at the beginning of when the team was created?
I think we've done a lot more of the younger group this year than we ever have, I think. With the other years, we've definitely had a lot more of the vets from either other teams or friends that we've played with in the past or what have you. So I'd say that's definitely the biggest thing this year is a lot of young kids coming out of school, which is good.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that as well. I agree. This is the youngest team. I've been coaching in this league for probably about 8 years now, and this is the youngest team I've ever been a part of. And a lot of times there's some, there might be a little fear around that, like, are we ready? But guys like Jayden are coming in, stepping up, picking everything up. And I mean, I know Jayden just it's his first year, but he makes the defense work every practice, man. And the same goes for literally every rookie, every young guy that we picked up. It's all strength, which is not what I would have forecasted if you told me that this is what we'd have age-wise this year. So really good things.
To that point, we do have one of our defensive ends. He's still in high school, like he's finishing up now, and he plays lacrosse at his school. So we haven't seen a lot of him, but he was there Wednesday, and he got in there pretty often.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was straight up wrecking plays. He was wrecking. He's a game wrecker, and I'm excited to see what that kid can do.
Now, Coach, why did you decide to jump from coaching high school to semi-pro?
That's not exactly how it actually played out. So I coached high school back home in Worcester, Mass, and then I moved to New Hampshire. Ended up seeing a kid with his mom at the mall wearing a Manchester Bears shirt. I asked, where's that? I ended up coaching the Manchester Bears for about 3 years. Following that, went back to high school. At the same time, though, was coaching semi-pro. So the great thing and not so great thing about semi-pro is the limited amount of practices we have each week really provides the opportunity to, extend myself to other football opportunities. So right now I'm only coaching semi-pro. For me, it's a much more accessible and malleable, opportunity because you can kind of make it what you put into it. With high school, obviously, right, you're 6 days a week on, and you get about 1 month of off season. So this is just a little bit more doable for my schedule. And then, the relationships that I've built with these guys, they're friendships and bonds that will last a lifetime. That's what kind of keeps me coming back.
Yeah, I mean, as far as your kind of philosophy in building a defense and stuff like that, with so many kind of younger players, how do you work with that kind of younger, maybe rookies or whatever you want to call them, players or personnel? Yeah.
So, I mean, the first thing is to assess, right, and get an understanding of what guys understand. And then the second thing is really leaning on veterans. I have my philosophy in terms of, rushing the quarterback, the coverages and schemes that we run. That's all built into my philosophy. But the guys that have been there, guys like Shattuck, guys like Cruz, our starting corner and captain, I lean on them. I've been working with them for a few years now. And so I really do have to lean on them to be coaches out there because it's easy to coach in a practice. It's very challenging to coach in a game. And what you need is guys out there who are towing the line and understand what the objectives are, understand their responsibilities. And again, it's great to have a guy like Tyler who understands multiple positions because then many guys can go to him for answers. And again, same thing for all of the leadership. And veteran players. Aaron Davis is another guy who plays defensive end for us. He knows they're just vaults of knowledge when it comes to the game. And then even more particularly when it comes to this scheme. And so, I really lean on those guys.
Jayden, now, what was your first impression at practice with the Destroyers?
It was definitely different, different atmosphere, and I'm not used to being around older folks on my team. Everyone I've ever played with is my age, so yeah, being around the older guys is a little different, and you may be even frightening at times, but I think it just develops me as a player more, and these guys are like really supportive. Anytime you make a mistake or you get a good ball off, they're really supportive, and they'll let you know. So it's nice to have them around.
Now, as the quarterback, how do you build that chemistry with your teammates? Whether they're, you had mentioned you have some people that you've played with before, but will you come in with some veterans and stuff like that? How do you build that chemistry?
I think it's just about getting out there and giving my effort, really, showing them that I want to ball and I want to take this team as far as they want to, and it's a group effort. Football is a group effort, and I'm just busting my ass, and in return, I think they'll return the favor to me. So it's nice.
Tyler, what's one thing you want fans to know about coming to a game?
Wow. Always keep your mind open because you never know what's going to happen or what you might see, especially with our special teams. Usually that's usually where our bread and butter is, I would say, because there's always at least one electric play that happens that'll change the momentum of the game.
As a veteran presence in the locker room, what advice do you give to younger players coming in?
Just keep an open mind. You may have been playing the game since you were, 6, maybe 5. It's definitely a lot different and a different change of pace. Jayden could probably attest to that a little bit now that he's kind of got his speed in and coming out of high school. So I'd say that's my biggest thing. Is just slowly get your reps in, and you'll definitely make a difference.
Yeah, and I can tell you the thing that you can absolutely count on probably 85 to 90% of the time is defense. Defense at this level is sharp and strong, and a lot of guys use this sport in general for their therapy. So they're not pulling up on hits. So you're going to see big hits. You're going to see strong defensive stands. And then, you're going to see those big plays Tyler talked about every once in a while as well. So I would say if you're a fan of defense, this league is certainly going to be very entertaining for you.
Now, Coach, other than the plays themselves, what do you hope guys learn during the season?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that's always been important to me for football, and I'm pretty sure most people who are involved with the sport would agree, it's the bonds you build. It really is. This sport is all about discipline. It's all about commitment. It's all about grinding. Right. A lot of people would attribute the attribute of dumb football guy or something like that. I'm a huge proponent of the idea that there are multiple kinds of intelligence. And I'll tell you what, you can't be dumb and play football, at least most positions. Certainly not quarterback, certainly not, a thinking position like any of the skill positions, really. They're all skill. All the skill positions you need to have an intelligence to play those. And, it does take a very intelligent, disciplined, committed person to be good at this sport. And particularly at this level, again, there's not a lot of practice. So you got to get in your playbook, probably double what you would have to do at other levels if you want it to be, if you want it to excel.
Now, Jayden, obviously we all kind of know that the quarterback kind of takes on that leadership role. What would you describe your leadership style as, and then what do you hope to bring to the team both on and off the field?
I'd like to say I'm a laid back guy. I'm not busting everyone's balls, and I think sometimes I should be a little bit more like that. Kind of take control a little bit more, and that's something I'm working on. But yeah, I'd say I'm a pretty mellow guy. I think I'm pretty approachable. If you don't know the play, or you just need help, or you need to talk something other than football. No, I think that I'm approachable, and I want people to be comfortable.
I will attest to that, because the kid snapped part of his helmet, and he was just like, "Hey, I broke my helmet. Can we fix it?" And then just wandered off to go do the rest of the plays.
And I would characterize Jayden's leadership. He's a quiet leader for sure, and I think that's kind of what he was getting at. But in football, we often say, don't talk with your words, talk with your pads, and that is something that this man does. He doesn't shy away. He said might be a little afraid of some of the older guys, or scared of some of the older guys. If he is, he doesn't show it. He studies. He knows what he's doing. All the players can go to him and ask questions and find answers. So, again, even though it's quiet, all you have to do is watch, and you'll see exactly how you should be behaving, what you should be doing, and how to get it right.
Now, Marina, the upcoming home game on June 14th, who are we playing? Where is it? What do we need to know?
So we are playing Mill City Eagles. We've played them so many times. It'll be a home game. So our home is at St. Anselm's College on their turf field. There is plenty of parking. We've added a couple of things to game day to, invite more fans. We do have something brewing. I was hoping I was going to get to announce it tonight, but I did not get the okay to. I got a food truck for us. There's a bakery that's coming with some gifts. Harper's wife is going to be there with a table. She is opening a dance studio, so we want to get her in front of the community as well. And then this game, a portion of our gate sales will be going to a nonprofit called Salute the Troops, where they help veterans with just about everything they need. No job is too small to them. So we're all about giving back this season, and they're going to be the first ones that we give back to. And I'm excited for them to join us.
Perfect. So great charity you're working with. A food truck. I always love a good food truck, so that's always good. And then you're going to have to go to the game to see.
I'm so excited. These boys are going to be eating good.
And then you're going to have to go to the game to see this secret revealed, I guess.
Yes.
Now.
And shout out, shameless plug, shout out to Rhythm and Roots, that studio that will be opening on Hanover Street in Manchester in just a few months. So please come support.
That is Harper's wife.
Perfect.
She finds therapy through dance. We find therapy through football, but we're all about helping. So I can't wait to see and talk with her about this studio and see if maybe we can get some guys in tutus down there.
Well, you need that to be, mobile on the field and stuff like that. You need to have that kind of, you hear all the stories from like all those players that did ballet and everything else like that. So, hey, it may not be out of the realm of possibility, but
my outside linebacker is a dancer, and she moves faster than most people I know. I don't even watch her feet half the time because I would trip over myself.
All right, we're gonna do kind of a round robin with this question right here. So we'll start with Tyler. Tyler, favorite team, favorite player in football. What do we got?
Let's see. Obviously, I'm a big New England fan. I've been watching them since I was born, probably. Favorite player, definitely going to be Edelman. That's my guy.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If you had the chance to tackle, run over, whatever, one player from history, who would it be?
I might have to go Barry Sanders on that one, just because of how quick he was.
There you go. All right, I can get behind that. Coach, what about you? What favorite team, favorite player?
We're so vanilla basic. Yeah, man, I'm born and bred New England. So I've been a Pats fan most of my life. I say most of my life because when I started playing football, I played for the Worcester Vikings. And that was my Pop Warner team. Shout out to the Worcester Vikings. And so the Vikings were my favorite team back then for probably the first 2 years of my football fandom, back with the Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss, Chris Carter days. So yeah, I love those guys. But then some dude named Tom came on the scene and he stole my heart. And so since then, probably since 2000, I've been riding hard for the Pats and certainly not going anywhere anytime soon, even though we're going through what we're going through. I was excited to see what Tyler said in terms of favorite player. As if you look at his answer, you can see he had to reach back in time for that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But my favorite player is Drake May, man, 10 toes down. Pats till I die. So
now, if you had to come up with a defense or scheme of defense to stop one guy in the history of football, who's it going to be?
Who would I want to stop the most?
Yep.
Oh man. Well, shoot, I'll stay home for that. It'd be great to if I was on the other side to actually, you know what? Scratch that. Let me scratch that. I was gonna say put Tom Brady down, but anything New York, anything New York. I don't care. Bring the 12U New York flag football girls team out here, and I'm out in coverage, man. I swear. Anything New York.
So I'm calling you tomorrow, Harper, while I'm on the sideline.
Yeah, anything New York is.
We could set that up for somebody.
Jayden, what about you? Favorite team, favorite player? I don't want to just assume it's the Patriots and Tom Brady or anything else like that. So I gotta ask.
Born and raised in New England, I gotta say my favorite team is the Pats, and it would be pretty cliche to say Tom Brady, but it is. But I will say my current favorite player is Saquon, and he's been he excelled at Penn State, and he's just been excelling ever since. And it's great. I'm happy to see that. So
You're throwing one Hail Mary pass to one player in history. Who do you want catching it?
I think I'm putting Megatron out there.
Nice.
I think we're going Calvin Johnson. Yeah.
Now, what are the expectations for the season? And we can all kind of jump in on this. What do you guys all have for your expectations, both for yourselves and for the team this year?
I have high expectations. Maybe a little too high, but I'm just excited. I'm excited to get out there. I think that we have a very great team. I think we motivate each other day in and day out, even when we're not on the field. I think when we see the text or, see that we need to fill something out from Marina, I think it gets us a little excited just because we're about to play. We're almost there. We're 8 days out.
8 days.
Are we?
8 days.
8 days, yep.
Yeah, so I have high expectations, and I'm gonna hold everyone accountable, including myself. So I'm ready to get started.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. Especially with being around and having a lot of younger guys this year. I'm always trying to make sure that we, are always at our best and trying to make sure we're playing and doing everything we can to make sure that we're in, that winning column by the end of the year, pushing into the playoffs. Last year, I was only on defense, I think probably for half the year. So I was right on Cruz's ass for interceptions. I told him I was going to pass him, but he ended up beating me by like 2. So I told him this year I'm definitely gonna pass him for sure.
Well, I can point out on film, Tyler, where you missed those 2. If you want to go back at some point.
A couple too, so
yeah,
I definitely should have beat him.
Yeah, we can definitely reconvene on that point. My expectations for the season, man, I think you're crazy to be out here and not have the expectation to win a championship. That's the goal. Every time we suit up, every time we step on the field, the goal is to win. The goal is to win a championship, and you win a championship by winning week by week. So, my expectations are that we get maximum commitment. Because if we get maximum commitment from the group we have, there's no reason we can't get to our ultimate goal. Last year, we went out in the first round of the playoffs. Nothing makes me more sick than that. You put in all this work, and then for it to just be over, not by choice, not because the season has ended, but because you've been eliminated, is devastating, and it does not sit well with me. So the championship is the goal. I certainly need to see us excel in the season, and then let that carry over into the playoffs, and let the young guys like Jayden carry us to what we all ultimately are here to do, which is again win that championship.
Marina, what are your expectations?
I guess mine would be different. Mine is for them to understand that, yes, they are playing a game, and, they take their time and commitment to do it too. But there is a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes for this to run. And probably one of my favorite things to do is to take that away from them and make sure it's organized so that they can focus on just playing the game and getting it done and not having to worry, do we have a field? Do we have refs? Do we have this? Do we have that? Like, they're taking their time out of their lives to do this, and I know how much it takes on people. So I'm going to be cliche big sister and be like, I want them to have fun. I do want them to have a fun season. I don't want them to worry about things like that. Like, that shouldn't be on their plate. And Cruz and I have had this discussion in lengths about it, because he's probably the most person that gets pulled off for the back end things. And we want to keep the focus on the field so that they can win that championship and bring it home as New Hampshire's only men's semi-pro team.
I want everybody to have fun as well, but winning's fun.
Yeah, it's typically how sports works. Winning is fun. Winning is the fun aspect of it. I mean, for you guys to continue to playing, I played in Pop Warner and stuff like that. You had mentioned playing for Pop Warner and stuff like that. I was the Norrock Vikings up here in New Hampshire. So,
Granite State played on that field in their beginning years.
Yep.
I have photos of Rizzy on it.
Yeah, that was wrong.
But to continue playing, like, mentioning, Jayden coming out of high school and playing for the team and stuff like that. I mean, it's a pretty cool opportunity, and I know it's for the love of the game. It's not a, paid position and stuff like that, but those produce some of the best moments and some of the best athletes of people that want to continue on their own time and they're on their own dime and stuff like that. So again, for you guys to continue doing this is fantastic. And Marina, can you tell us where they can find everything, all the information, if people want to come in and donate and everything else like that? Can you give us all that information?
So, yep, we're on Facebook. It's under GSD Football. Same with Instagram. I just finished making our TikTok, so we are under GSD Football as well. Tyler's video has over 1,000 hits, and I put it up this morning.
There you go. Mine
but again,
don't get that many.
We'll be at St. Anselm's on the 14th. You want to get there early. Kickoff is at 6. I suggest showing up at 5 so you don't miss our big reveal fun thing. And the food truck will be there at 5. Baked goods, things like that, and you get to watch some really good football.
And Facebook page, Granite State Destroyers as well. And again, for you guys, this is a really cool opportunity and really cool chance for me to get to talk to you. And one of these days we'll do in-person stuff. I just got my lapel mics, so I'll be able to film stuff. Look at that. See, I'm growing up just like that. But I wish you guys all the best.
Oh, I got my mini mics to work. I got my mini mics to work, and I texted Cruz and Martin, and I was like, none of you are safe from doing TikToks with me now.
I've tried to do everything for this show as far as TikToks and stuff like that. You've seen my stuff go up, Marina, but I'm too old. It's like, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to do with that stuff. So I'm working on that. But
come hang out with the young kids from the team. I'm sure they can tell you.
That's probably what I need to do. But I wish you guys all the best of luck coming up in 8 days, and then best of luck for the rest of the season as well. And I thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for
having us.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marina.
Take care.
Great interview there with the Granite State Destroyers. Again, their first home game is on June 14th at 6. Suggestion was to show up at 5. There'll be a food truck. There's a surprise going on, which I believe has already been put up on the Facebook. You'll have to go check it out. They are GSD Football on Instagram and TikTok. So, again, go show your support. It is some very good football run by some great people, and they have some very good players. And I cannot thank them enough for their time. I'm sure there are going to be some great things this season, especially with everybody's support. We are going to shift gears a little bit to the NFL because Aaron Rodgers has a team. And I'm going to keep this nice and short and sweet. He went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I don't think it makes him any better. Aaron Rodgers was a great player, has always been a great player. And I've enjoyed watching him. I've had a lot of good discussions with people whether he was better than Tom Brady or Joe Montana or all these different people. And at this point in time, for the amount of time that he's played and the one championship that he's won, and I know that people are going to come after me and say championships don't make the greatest player ever. They don't do this. Then my retort to you is what's the point of playing the game if you're not winning? And again, he has a Super Bowl title. 1. And I believe he's only been to 1. Yeah, he's only been to 1. He came close to 3. Close is only good in horseshoes, you know? He's a very talented player. He's a Hall of Fame player. All that stuff is fine. the Steelers spent the offseason going out and getting DK Metcalf and getting rid of George Pickens, who's a nutcase at best. And it's fine. It's a fine move. They didn't have a quarterback really other than Mason Rudolph, if you were going into the season with that, you might as well have just said it's a rebuilding year. They're giving Mike Tomlin one more chance, I think, because Mike Tomlin's kind of hovered around that 500, just, edge of the playoffs, getting into the playoffs. And again, Super Bowl winning head coach, more than Aaron Rodgers anyway. And it doesn't really change all that much where Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, he had the one play with the Jets the first season, then he played a full season last year and you could see glimpses of it. Now, he had those glimpses against the Patriots, which was not a good testament or a good test. But then the second time around, they lost to the Patriots. So, is he really going to bring all that much? He's going to make smart decisions. He's not going to turn the ball over. That's always been kind of his MO, is that he throws a ton of touchdown passes and doesn't turn it over a lot, which is great. So if the Steelers cut down on some mistakes that they may have had last year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who knows? But I don't think they're any closer to a Super Bowl. And I've seen memes and everything else out there that shows that, hey, the Steelers have now, with this addition, have become a top 32 offense in the NFL. And for those of you who don't get that joke, there's only 32 teams. Ta-da! We'll see what happens. I could be dead wrong, but I don't think it makes them any better. So the funny thing is, the Steelers and the Jets play week 1. So Justin Fields is now the quarterback for the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers is now the quarterback for the Steelers. And we will see what happens. It's gonna create a story, and for all of his offseason antics and what he wants to do and not sign and everything else like that. He signed the other day, and then like a couple hours later, they had Aaron Rodgers, jerseys ready to go on the thing. So this was kind of agreed upon beforehand. He just didn't announce it, and I mean, he hates training camp. He hates all those OTAs and everything else like that. So he wasn't going to show up for that anyway. So for his antics and everything else like that, good luck to you in Pittsburgh. You're a great quarterback. You're a Hall of Fame quarterback. I just don't think it makes a difference this year for the Steelers. We're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to look at the world of tennis. And for those of you who don't know, I am a gambling man, and tennis has always been my bread and butter. Not that I would condone that for anything, but tennis has been my bread and butter. And the reason being is normally, the higher seed wins. And I take advantage of that when I can. The major championships are the ones that you get all the big-time people, and those early rounds are very easy to kind of look at and analyze. And I'm getting a little too deep into this, but just as a kind of heads up, and I take no repercussions for anything that you decide to do past this, because I deal with my own repercussions when I make certain bets and stuff like that. But the reason why I bring up tennis is because Coco Gauff, the American tennis player that we have seen since 2019 when she was just 15 years old, and she beat 7-time major champion Venus Williams on center court at Wimbledon, is when we kind of got introduced to her. And she's been around since then, and she's put herself in the top rankings for the women's tennis circuit, if you will. She's actually listed as number 2 in the world right now. But she won the French Open, and after beating world number 1 ranked Marina Sabalenka 6-7, so she lost the first set, won the second set and third set 6-2, 6-4. After beating her at Roland Garros, 9 minutes into her press conference, she was asked what are her goals in the sport, and without hesitation, she said, I want to be the best. I want to be the greatest ever. And as mentioned, she's been around since she was 15 years old. And making that transition from a 15-year-old with little to no expectations to then being on the worldwide stage is never easy. And it took her quite a few years to win a major championship. She reached the French Open final in 2022, lost there. Her first major was the U.S. Open in 2023, where she won that. And then she has come back, and obviously, like mentioned a few times, she won this past weekend. She's still 21 years old. And that's very impressive to do, to go from no expectations and then be put on this pedestal, to keep improving, to keep doing everything like that. People are saying it's right around her time to start taking over the sport and be the next great, and not to take away anything from anybody else on the circuit, but she's slowly started to get to this point, has now started to beat all these top-ranked players. She's now number 2 in the world and in her prime. So this is probably the next great American player. Outside of Serena and Venus, were probably the last ones that we would consider the next great American tennis female players. I'm sure there's some in between there that have reached pretty high up there, but Coco Gauff was kind of expected to be the next great one, and she's reached kind of that pinnacle right now. So 2 major titles on her resume, and I can only see things going up from here. So at 21 years old, I mean, I was nowhere close to as great of an athlete as she is, and it's phenomenal to see. Very happy for her win. This seems like it's the logical corner for a 21-year-old to start in this prime and dominating, such as Serena did for so long. And now we have a kind of a feel-good story out of the UFL. So the UFL is that new up-and-start league, spring football league that we've seen, and we're getting into the playoffs. And I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't watched much of it, if any. And it was in passing and stuff like that. So I read through stories and stuff like that, trying to look for content to put on here. And I came across a story about Jamar Smith, who had a great routine this spring. He ended up retiring from the UFL in March, and he was stopping into a local Dunkin in Birmingham, Alabama, and it wasn't to eat or get a coffee. It was to work. So he was working most days as early as 5 a.m., making coffee, serving donuts, ringing up customers, all the fun stuff that comes with the work at Dunkin. He's working toward his master's degree, which is great. He still was working with a private quarterback coach. And then less than 2 months later, Smith found himself back in the Birmingham Stallions locker room. The Birmingham Stallions had gone through massive amounts of injuries on the roster to their quarterback position, and they called Jamar and asked if he would want to come back. And he entered the starting lineup with no other healthy quarterbacks on the roster, and he led the team to a 3-1 regular season finish and started their playoff game yesterday against the Michigan Panthers. Now, the Michigan Panthers did win this game, so just so we're clear that the Birmingham Stallions are out of the playoffs, but he led the Stallions to a USFL title in 2022. He missed all but one game in 2023 because of a torn ligament in his right hand, and then he returned as a backup in 2024. Facing a similar role in 2025, his brief retirement ultimately was only a preamble to a remarkable comeback story. The coach of the Stallions is Skip Holtz, who he played for at Louisiana Tech from 2016 to 2019. And he was here through all the, like I said, the championship and the USFL. So the UFL was actually the XFL and the USFL merger. So just so we're clear, in 2024, we went through all that uncertainty part of this, as part of this leagues and teams and everything else. So the starting quarterbacks for Birmingham were Adrian Martinez, the Nebraska quarterback, if everybody remembers him. It seemed like Nebraska always had a Martinez as a quarterback role, and Matt Corral, who at one point in time was on the Patriots. He didn't really want to be a backup. He was looking forward to a career after football and understood that he would have to walk away from this opportunity on the team, in which he did. As mentioned, he was working with a quarterback coach, so that way if he did get another opportunity, he'd be ready. He got that other opportunity, and it seems very cool that he has to step in as the third-string quarterback, it essentially who wasn't even on the roster, and then led them to the playoffs. And it's one of those types of things that's the reason I love sports, is to hear that people that don't give up and have the opportunity to do this or have one last ride, whatever it may be for him. We're not sure if he's going to play again next year. I mean, I would think he would give it the old college try, I guess, if you will. But he initially had signed a weak contract to come back and play after the injuries to the quarterback position for the Stallions. And again, congratulations to him and showing that taking advantage of an opportunity. He had to put Dunkin on hold, hang up the apron for a little bit. But these are one of the great kind of sports stories that come from a league that not a lot of people maybe are paying attention to right now. And I just thought it was a really cool story and share with everybody. You can read about it on ESPN. So if you want to go there and read about it, you just go to More Sports, look for UFL, and it'll show you. They just had games yesterday in the playoffs. On the other end of the spectrum, Samson Nacua, who is the brother of Puka Nacua. There we go. The Los Angeles Rams receiver who had a great rookie season and good year too. But his brother plays for the Michigan Panthers, who just lost to the St. Louis Battlehawks, and he slapped a fan during an altercation and is suspended for a game. So that's the opposite end of the spectrum. Probably not something you want to be known for, but interesting story of that, I guess, from the negative perspective of the league. And now I'm going to address a few show-related things I'm sure everybody loves to hear about. Maybe not. I've gotten some feedback on some things we can do and looked at some analytics for YouTube views and everything else like that. And I noticed that there's some of the newer episodes people are listening, the average listen is low. So what we're going to adjust going forward, hopefully, is I'm going to take the opening and shorten a little bit. I'm going to try to do some voiceover work, get all the information out there early, and then that way I'm into the show a little bit earlier. The opening runs about 30 seconds or so before I before I actually edit it and have it like trail off or fade off, if you will. And I'm going to shorten it probably by another 10 seconds or so, and then have it play very loosely in the background when I go over hey, this is what the show's going to have. This is where you can find us and read all that information. So I've had some feedback that's a little long and that people want to get through that a little bit quicker. And again, 30 seconds I get is not a long period of time. But at the same point, I also know that you have to sit there in your car and you don't really have sometimes the ability to go through the opening. So we'll shorten that a little bit. As I mentioned last time, working on some segments and everything else that will hopefully get sponsors for and everything else. And then from there, we're going to take the rest of the feedback and kind of edit that in. And I was toying with the idea of doing the show opening before the intro, do a 20-second intro, like, hey, this is what the show's going to have and everything else. Wonderful, great. Here's the music, then go right into the show. But I think I don't necessarily like that structure. And you guys can tell me if you do like that better, and I can work on it. But at the same time, I am listening to what people are saying, and I thank you for feedback. And we're going to go into this, and we're going to really make this what the audience wants. And I wanted to give myself a good enough sample size of 25, 26 episodes and see if anything adjusts. And again, I've gotten this feedback, so we'll shorten the opening a little bit. The ending will probably stay the same for right now. I'm looking for a different opening music. We may change it, we may not. Again, going through everything to make this show better each and every time. For myself, I look at a show and I want the next show to be better, and then the next show to be better, and then the next show to be better. I did notice in one of our shows, I had mentioned that we were going to talk about the Champions League between Paris Saint-Germain and Inter Milan. And I just didn't do it. I had mentioned it in the opening, and I just didn't mention really anything about it. I'll do that now. Paris Saint-Germain won by a lot. And it was their first title. Congratulations to them. I like Paris Saint-Germain. They have owners that spend a ton of money, so they're normally at the top of the French league, and they're normally in this position. But they run into a lot of great teams and never been able to win the Champions League, so they won this time. But I did notice that I just didn't do it. So I find that kind of funny on my end. And again, still learning some stuff as I go along, and I will continue to do so until there's a great production team behind me that hopefully will happen at some point. But right now you're dealing with me and my production value and everything else. And we're going to look at a schedule of maybe 2 episodes a week coming up. And maybe a Tuesday, Thursday, maybe we do an early week and then weekend show. I don't know. I do the Mass Pirates interviews on Wednesdays, so I try to get that out Saturday or Sunday. And then this one, I wanted to get out obviously now because you're going to be listening to it now. And that's where kind of the show's going to go. Early week, late week. I don't think I'm going to pick a day, and I want to be consistent, and that's what I'm working on now, is consistency for the listeners. And the numbers have looked really good for this being around for 4 months. As I've mentioned in many episodes before, it continues to do so. I've just noticed that the average listen is small, and that's why I want to make the adjustments early on with the opening so you can get right into the content that you listen to, hopefully, that you listen for. If you're just listening for the open, I can make the opening longer, but I don't think that's what everybody wants. But that's kind of what we're working on right now. I like telling you this so that way you can hopefully see the adjustments in the next few episodes. So, again, wherever you're listening from, I appreciate it. If it's morning, have a good morning. If it's afternoon, have a good afternoon. If we're at night, have a good evening. And we will see you on the next show.